want to come on over and disconnect our ground terminal here on our battery using our 10mm socket. Loosen that nut, pull the cable off, and tuck that on the side. Using a 19mm socket, let's go ahead and remove our lug nuts. Remove the wheel and set it aside. Now what we started with was putting the key in the ignition, turn it to the on position. That's going to allow us to go ahead and grab our steering and manually crank it into the position that we need it to. Use a pair of pliers. Again, bend out the legs on the cotter pin here. And then grab the end. Using your pliers with some leverage, go ahead and work that cotter pin out. Now the jam nut right here, when you're going to use our 24mm wrench, we need to break this free. Using a 19mm socket, let's go ahead and loosen the nut on our outer tie rod. Now at this point here, we left it on a few threads. Let's go ahead and use a hammer. We're going to strike our knuckle here and pop that outer tie rod off. And spin that nut off the rest of the way. Now what we want to do is we want to count the amount of revolutions it takes to unthread the outer tie rod from the inner tie rod. It's 19 turns. Now what I'll normally do is take a crayon and I'll mark the amount of revolutions here. There, I know how many turns to put this back on to set us with a preliminary alignment. Once this is completed, you do want to bring the vehicle down to have an alignment performed. That'll help with proper tire wear and preventing any other component failure. We're going to use our 14mm wrench on the inner tie rod right here. We're going to use our 24mm and we need to remove our jam nut. Remove this clamp using a pair of pliers. Pinch. We're going to use a long punch. We want to get right to the band right on the inside here, and we're going to knock that off. These are a one-time use band. There's no saving this here, so you just have to pop this off. Remove the boot from the rack itself. And at this point here, we can go ahead and pull our boot off. If you need to, you can use a small pick to just get inside this right here and just kind of work your way around. Might have a little bit of a rust buildup on there. Just grab that boot and slip that off. Let's go ahead and install our rack boot. With that pushing all the way, at this point here, the inner boot does not reach the rack. So simply what you want to do is go to the other side, and I'm going to grab that wheel. I'm going to rotate this so that that boot comes closer to that rack. Then we'll go ahead and install our inner clamp or strap on the boot. I'm going to go ahead and put our plastic tie on here, catch it a few teeth, and we're just going to slide that into the inner band of the boot. You want to make sure that your boot is on the steering rack all the way and seated. pull it snug by hand. Use your pliers, and we're just going to put some extra tension on that. Once that's nice and tight, we're just going to cut off the excess. Now we can go ahead and turn the passenger wheel and bring that rack boot out. Now if you take the pliers and put that clamp back on the inside, pop that onto the outer ring of the boot, get install the jam nut. I'm going to thread that down. Then you want to go ahead and take your outer tie rod and let's thread that on. We had counted 19 turns to get our preliminary alignment. Go ahead and spin that jam nut bottom out on that. And we can go ahead and bring this over. Get that pressed in. Go ahead and get our nut installed on the bottom. Just thread it on a couple threads. Let's go ahead and snug down that nut. Let's go ahead and torque down our outer tower nut to 40 foot-pounds. Now we can go ahead and tighten down our jam nut. And if you have the ability to do so, you want to torque this down to 33 foot-pounds. Just tighten that down with your wrench. Once everything is torqued into place, you want to go ahead and use a pair of pliers. And we're just going to twist the outer tie rod just so that this is level. After this part has been installed, you want to go ahead and bring your vehicle down and get an alignment performed. Take your wheel, get that lined up. Let's go ahead and get your lug nuts installed. I'm going to get all these started by hand, and then we'll go ahead and snug them down. Let's go ahead and torque down our lug nuts to 80 foot-pounds. Once we turn the key to the off position, we'll go ahead and reconnect our ground terminal here. And go ahead and snug that down.